This week on the show, photographer David Barrios. I'm model Roxanne Callie.
And I'm photographer Brian Fisher.
And this is Model Photography Showcase.
Episode 4.
Yes.
2013. A classic episode of Model Photography Showcase.
Of course. David's work was great.
David's work was fantastic. This is late 2013. We're bringing you our classic episodes. They were a more primitive format than the video of the new work. More of like a slideshow format.
And you didn't get to see Brian's pretty face.
Yes, which honestly, everybody seemed happier about.
Yeah.
They all wanted to see you.
No.
It's true. They want to see the model. They're like, get behind a camera.
No, it's really wonderful to have your input all the time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you get all that, classic technical stuff.
Yeah, the knowledge is not as pretty as the
Yes.
face.
Wow.
Anyway, this is episode 4. It was a great episode, and we hope you enjoy it today. Hey, Roxanne, how are you doing?
Doing great today. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. We're going to interview a great photographer today, David Barrios, who I've known for years. We're on our 5th podcast.
Pretty exciting.
It's moving right along. We might just continue to do these into the future.
I sure hope so.
So, David Barrios, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great to have you on the show.
I feel like I'm on the radio. Am I on the radio or is this being broadcast?
Not live.
Not live, but this will be through the computer interweb thing. It's great. Where you will be appearing on phones everywhere.
All right.
We are compatible, so on iTunes you can access it from pretty much anywhere.
That's true. And that dovetails into our listener email of the week, which we're going to paraphrase to being very short, because it wasn't. So, but in the meantime, let's start off with images. Our first image is this one. David, tell us a little about this.
This one I'm seeing right here is Libby. This is actually a friend of mine that I met through Mayhem. We went up to the top of a building in Fresno, which was under construction, and I wanted to play with some natural light.
Very nice.
You nailed it with the window, the lighting from the window. It looks like to the right of the model, next to the one behind her.
Yeah, there's just it was probably about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I think I might have had a flash on some of these images. On this one, I think I had a Apollo orb, I think they're called.
Very nice.
Okay.
I think I see just a little reflection in the eye off to the left, which could be that or a window, but it's nicely soft, like you sort of lit the environment and let it come back down to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
I also noticed that, and I'm sure this was intentional, but I notice that the hard light that's in behind her is kind of carefully positioned to give a nice outline around her. Whereas if you had shifted to the left and lost those light highlights, the tonal structure between her and her background would be very similar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
She pops.
Yeah, and I also like the lines going across her back and her bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Just that little stuff in there. And I think on this one it was kind of funny because the building was opened, and everywhere in this photo shoot there was like bird crud all over everywhere. So
Nice.
If I showed too much of the shoes, you would see a little bit, So anyhow, that crop on her foot's a little off for me. But if you're going to critique it, that's one thing I would change. Raise it up.
We're not here to critique.
my daughter had a bird for a while. I twitch at the term bird crap. But next image. Well, I recognize this background. I thought there was a fence across there, though.
Yeah, no, I didn't take out any fence. That's actually, yes, that's a Brian Fisher Pismo jam. I think that was my first Pismo jam on day 2.
I was going to ask if it was San Luis.
It is. That is the Paso Robles event in 2010.
Oh.
I recognize the horse in the background.
Yeah. So this was probably one of my first photos that what I would say edited a lot. So I wasn't too crazy about editing my images, but I had to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So on this one, I think other than some shadows, some hard shadows on her face, that was about all I really did. But beautiful model, great figure, and it's always fun. I've kind of realized now with the Horizon photos that there's really a magic to it. And right here, I made a drastic little thing where you're not supposed to put the horizon through the person's head.
Not really. No, I was going to let that pass. Well, on the other hand, if you had backed up, she'd have had a tree for a hat. So
Yes.
That's true. Yeah, so you got to pick and choose.
It
So
looks uncomfortable to stand in that sand with her high heels on.
yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but her feet are all turned upwards from sinking in.
I know exactly how that is on the
Yeah,
sand with high heel.
about a month before this was taken, I disked that area.
oh, you did. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. The horses, a good choice in the background.
Thank you.
We're going back there next June. I'm not sure exactly what the date is, but we're planning to do the second day of the jam at that location.
Excellent, because that's
And
close to where I live.
We will certainly have more Land Rovers. We will certainly have more ag equipment. And we are talking to a military restoration group about bringing in some tanks.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe some Jeeps, half tracks. One of our photographers has got a deuce and a half.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Deuce and a half is a classic military big truck with 4 wheels in the back and 2 wheels in the front.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Anyway, Todd has one, and we're trying to convince him that even though he lives 200 miles away and it only goes 40 miles an hour, that it'd be a really nice day's trip to bring it out. Alrighty. This another model to make me feel slightly chubby.
Yeah, oh
All
my
right,
goodness.
more
that,
than chubby.
that definition is incredible.
Yeah, this was done in Las Vegas and natural light. It's kind of funny because this was kind of one of those impromptu shoots where it just kind of fell together, and I had a flash and was trying not to use anything other than, of course, natural light. And she had an incredible 6-pack, and I definitely captured that in this image. So it's a lot of fun working with her. She was an experienced model. And just did a great job.
I've had issues with highly muscular women in the past where you tell them like, hey, soften up, you're a beautiful woman. You need to just relax. And they're like, no, I worked really hard for this and I'm going to show it.
I have seen that too.
But she carries it off well. She doesn't look manly. A lot of those girls that are in that good a shape, they tend to get a little manly in their features, and she isn't. She's really, really pretty.
I think that has to do with steroids.
Yeah, she had great smiles all the time. So no steroids there, I don't think.
Yeah,
you can tell that she doesn't.
Sometimes that's just testosterone from working so much, your body releases it. So the steroids are internal, not external.
That's interesting.
But not that I work in the medical field.
Yeah.
No, it's really pretty. The lighting is for being just a nice little window light. It really is ideal. You got just a little blackout block on the back of the head, and that's totally acceptable. And it's just really nicely done.
She has gorgeous skin.
Yeah. It's
really incredibly radiant skin.
Well,
she actually had lots of tattoos, and I'm not a big tattoo fan, so I was happy that I didn't have to Photoshop any tattoos off of her on this shot.
Yeah, we had a talk last week about tattoos that they can be quite interesting. It's just hard to find ones that are.
Yeah.
It's hard to find ones that are attractive.
Yes. I should restate that because sometimes they're really interesting in a like, oh my God kind of way.
What were you thinking?
All right. Lighting under a hat is never easy, and that's a hell of a hat.
Yeah. This was actually done in the Fresno train station. And another model friend, actually the first image, she kind of wanted to help Vanessa here to have a little bit more of a theme and a little bit more planned. And so she was really, really instrumental in bringing the hat. I think she brought some balloons and everything else like that. So this, again, was my favorite little Apollo. I said the orb earlier. That's because the orb is something I use, but it's actually it's the square one. So I've moved from the square one to the octagonal one. So one flash and that's it. And then I'm just using the natural light as the backlight.
So I'm sure that a couple of people who listen to this are going to think we have a fixation on Fresno or what's called the Central Valley here in California. Fresno is a good photography town, even though a lot of people think it's just the place where raisins come from. It's an older town. It's got some really beautiful architecture and things. For anything that anyone's ever said negative about Fresno, there's a lot of neat places around there to photograph and a surprising number of models and photographers. Fresno is a strangely photographic town.
So what you're saying is, Brian, that we should call it Frez Yes.
Frez, yes. Excellent. I will call the Chamber of Commerce immediately.
You know what I have found is once you leave Fresno for a few years and then you come back to Fresno, you'll have a bigger appreciation for it. Too many people stay in Fresno and they don't seem to ever leave. So if you, I went to school in San Luis Obispo near your town, of course, and loved it. So I love my town. Of course, I love other towns, but it's a great place. It's a great place. It's a family place. It's close enough to all these other places. And yes, between Yosemite and the lakes, and then a quick trip to the coast, it's a cool place.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Oh, this woman has a beautiful shape to her.
Yes, she does, and I love the color of the swimsuit.
Thanks. So this was actually down in down south, another impromptu. This one I used my Ellen Chrome softbox with a light and a battery. And boy, oh boy, did it really make a difference. So this is done early in the morning. And it was just not, I think it was like 6 in the morning. So she was a great model. And for her to wake up at 6 and be ready to go and energetic and, not all hungover from the night before was really, really good.
That means that she had to be up at 4:30. To get ready and be at the beach by 6.
I think that in like Model Mayhem, Model Place, there needs to be like an extra badge that the photographer can place on the model's profile for like got up early, kind of like Boy Scout badges that you can award to your models.
I will never be that one. I will never have one of those badges.
Oh, I'll bet you would.
I don't know. I don't do sunrise. I like sunset just fine.
I can count on one hand how many times I have taken shots of models at this early in the morning, but it was perfect, and she was just a lady with it. So, this one she had just had augmentation done, so she was real excited and motivated.
I see. Yeah, I noticed that. I didn't know.
She is a girl of a little bustiness there.
Yes.
Now. Although they don't look fake. Well, you can't see the arms covering where a lot of the giveaway would be, but the size she's not real hippie, but she's got a little shape to her hips, and she looks balanced to me. I think that's
and although I photoshopped other images, this I did not do any liquefy on this whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can look at how extremely blown out the sunward side of her figure is. Mm-hmm. And then, so you had to use significant power to backfill that. And there was a lot of light coming in from the left there.
Yeah, it was that big old bulky thing, but it's well worth trucking it down to the beach.
Yeah, I need a mule. That's what it is. I
bring a mule with you.
Some sort of minion or large creature to carry all of my stuff. That would be great. All right, I believe this is Mackenzie.
Yes, that is Mackenzie.
I have never worked with this model. I have seen her for years, and every time I see her, I'm like, I need to work with her. She's gorgeous.
She is gorgeous. Long legs, long arms.
I hear those legs go all the way to the part of there where they attach. It's great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I never would have guessed.
They go all the way up.
Yeah, this was just basic white background. This was at my studio, and she was just, she's a great model. I don't think I photoshopped this other than maybe her legs, honestly, which was just a little model skin legs, and that was probably about it, just to make it more even. This was my classic 3-light setup, one hair light in the back, and usually with the grid, and then a couple of lights. I feather the lights a lot more, I think, than most people.
Yeah, it's a good effect, and she's a beautiful model.
She is.
A girl on a wall. We've done this before in the podcast.
We have.
Yeah. Out of all the images, this is probably my most, I guess, tell a story about it. But this is actually in Beverly Hills. She and I, we kind of set this thing up again impromptu, and we went to a park, and I can't, I want to say it's Greystone Park. I can't remember, but so sure enough, when I get to this park, there's, a few people, and they got their little cameras, and I've got my, my 7200 out with my D700 and a, one flash, and I don't see anybody. And I'm thinking there's a big sign that says, no photography, no commercial videography, blah, blah, blah. There's no one out there. So she shows up, she's looking like she is. I've got my camera and I don't even get one image shot. And this guy comes out of nowhere and says, "Do you have a permit?" I said, "No, I don't." I said, "How do I get one?" "Well, you need to go this. And I said, "Well, how much is a permit?" $1,800 a day.
Oh.
And so, I think it was definitely called Greystone Park. So we got kicked out and we had to just go somewhere else. So we literally went right across, I think, from the Beverly Hills Hotel into here. She had her sister helping her up, and I love her shoes.
I
Great.
love the
Shoes
bottom
are
of her
great.
shoes are
I
great.
like that. I like that bathing suit cover up. That thing's cool.
Yeah.
So, was this a publicly owned park?
You know what? It was in the middle of nowhere, and based on what she was wearing, I was surprised that we didn't get stopped or pulled over or something else. I mean,
Yeah.
she was fully dressed, but she's gorgeous outfit. Loved everything, and her attitude was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a problem with the whole idea that you go to some publicly funded park to go take a picture that is not for sale. You're not shooting for a magazine. You're not doing a motion picture. It's a personal thing. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you got to spend some money on that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I also like, and I'm going to point this out because you've done this and other things, that you've taken your watermark and laid it onto the wall.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, that I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh, my watermarks suck now. They were good yesterday, and now they're horrible.
I need to do it more often.
Yeah, it's a great effect. It really is. If you happen to be a fan of the BBC series Sherlock or the new Doctor Who's, they've started taking their words and sticking them in the scenes, so like the credits and things, and
cool.
and stuff where they're placing. So that I remember in, I think it was Sherlock, there's the words of, like, this happened at this date kind of words. They were sitting on a counter in 3D in the space, and they weren't really there, but they were put there.
I've seen that
And
too. It's really interesting.
I saw that. I was like, oh, that's great. And then I saw it on Doctor Who, and I was like, well, that's the same production team. That makes sense. And then I was like, oh, crap. That means it's going to be on everything.
Yeah.
This will now be overused everywhere. But in photography, I've never seen anyone do it on their portfolio images. So you get the credit there.
Thanks.
My husband and I were talking about it just last night. We had something on and it had that. And I said, look, you can see the location floating in the air.
Oh, Danielle.
I love this model. She's great. I think she's so nice.
She looks like a lion.
She does.
She needs some serious body paint work, this girl.
That would be really cool.
And actually, she's already volunteered.
Oh, really?
So, okay, that's cool.
At a portfolio event in the future for you.
Yeah, this was 2 years ago, Pismo Jam, I think, right? Does that sound
Sounds right.
Yeah, so this was just an Apollo again, and a flash, and way over. I don't know. I think it's overexposed, a little bit too much hair light, but it was fun. And this was my favorite image of taking the picture of her. So
I like the overexposed.
I was going to say, that's how I want it.
Yeah, on the right side. I love it how it makes her hair look a little more crazy, and it gives the picture attitude.
Well, thanks. That's cool.
It's really neat. I like it.
Yeah, we have been kicking around doing a portfolio jam that'll be one of our pro events where the photographers have to pay, and in this case pay reasonably heftily, because we're going to probably bring out about a dozen fully body painted models out into a Sahara-like setting for 2 days.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. So
like a dry lake bed kind of thing, or
no, we're looking for a ranch that has a very Sahara look, and then we're going to do 2/3 of the models as Thompson's gazelles, which look like this, which I will add into the post production, and then we'll do the other third as predators, probably cheetahs.
Oh, wow.
And bring in perhaps some sort of very, very dark-skinned models and put them in full tribal outfit, and maybe a couple of models in British adventurer type costume, you know.
Brian, you never seem to amaze me, the energy that you put into these things. So I'm
Yes.
I'm glad somebody does it, because I don't have the time to get all crazy with that. But that sounds like a crazy, crazy concept. So.
Well, the rough budget for that one is about $10,000. And that's going to probably be a 20 photographers at $500 a piece sort of adventure.
Yeah.
But you know what? When it comes, I've had a lot of people who are like, I don't pay for nothing. And then you go, this is what I'm going to do. I'm like, I'll start saving now.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you go wild enough, people will open their wallets. But oftentimes I end up providing just because.
Yeah.
Oh, this is very nice. This girl has hair.
Yes, she does. Beautiful.
As I have lost most of my hair, I'm very interested in people with hair.
Yeah, this was actually done in River Bottom, and yeah, this model came with her mom, which I really liked, and her mom was very supportive, and she had a good wardrobe that she came around with her, and a little younger model for my taste, but she did a great job.
Well,
How old is she?
She is
17, 16.
I think she's not even that.
yeah, I'd say she looks 15 to
she's-
me.
Yeah, I think she's barely 15.
Wow.
You know, we treat in the glamour world as though there's a taboo on people under 18, and certainly it is wise, if you're going to do anything risque, to choose somebody who's definitely verified of age.
Mhm.
But we also forget that, for God's sakes, turn on the television. There are a whole ton of 10-year-olds that are in age-appropriate attire, and we photograph professionally catalogs and things with, I mean,
Every age.
yeah, open up. If people wear underwear at any age, there's a picture of them doing it in a catalog somewhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so as long as you're north of that, you're fine.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know what? There was something that I think that it was, and again, it was something to shoot towards, no pun intended, but you know, I have a daughter who is 11 years old. And so I kind of had a friend say, you know, you should maybe have this philosophy that you only take photographs that your daughter would be able to see, or more importantly, maybe your daughter would be in. So who knows? But I kind of thought, well, that was kind of a paradigm shift for me to think about, you know, keeping a line of where you go and you know, the respect and all that stuff. I think there's too many connotations, unfortunately, these days with you know, photographer models, and you know, I'd like to see that minimized if possible. And so I don't know how to do it. I just figure it's something that I kind of have a strong feeling towards. So I don't ever want anyone ever to think, oh yeah, that guy was kind of creepy. And you hear those things. And so I've never heard that from any of the girls I've shot with. And of course, I hope never to. But it just, you know, when you contact, you know, a beautiful woman, you don't want them to feel like that's what's going to happen. And so.
It's really is true. And Roxanne can speak to this from a model's perspective. I'm a couple of years ahead of you in that I have a 15-and-a-half-year-old. And I have the other issue with her is she has now crossed a big chunk of that barrier. And for her, she's kind of like, I'm thinking about shooting my friend so-and-so, and I think she'll be topless. I'm like, no, hold on there just a minute, Missy. We'll have none of that until you guys are 18. And then I hear myself, I'm like, that feels really weird to give your daughter permission at age 18 to go take pictures of her friends naked. But you know what? It's okay.
It's a total. My daughter tells me to turn down the stereo all the time. It cracks me up.
I love it.
Anyhow, but
I think that the photographers that are creepy are the ones that are not forthright with what they want from when they contact you. It's the ones that say, oh, let's just shoot glamour and bring some wardrobe outfits with, you know, like a dress and stuff like that. And then you get to the shoot and they say, okay, now are you comfortable with taking off your clothes? And you say, oh, really? We should have discussed this when we set up the shoot, because that's not what I'm here for.
my big portfolio events, and I run the portfolio jam events for any of the listeners that are interested in looking. You're probably getting tired of hearing about them, but they're pretty popular. The reason they came into existence was because we had some creeps that had, shocking. I know that a bunch of scantily clad beautiful women draws creeps out of the crowd, but we had creeps in our area, two in particular. And not that they were they were always nice. I never got a report that they were unkind to the models, but they were manipulative. And we knew that if we could bring them to light, we could make them go away, and it worked. People, if they meet at the jam, the people, they get into the right community, and it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've just enjoyed it. I really missed that I didn't go to this one, Brian. So sorry about that, but.
You missed a good day too, let me tell you.
It was a great one.
Brian, go back to that one image because I
yes.
forgot. That was a sun bounce, and that's it. So
nice
California
and simple.
sun bounce with the zebra, white and gold, which is my favorite one. And that was probably done at about 3:00 in the afternoon, and I'm going to say springtime. But anyhow, that's it.
I wish they would make that in a couple of different gradients, because the zebra stripe is roughly 50-50 gold silver. And I would love to have one that was like 25% gold and mostly silver. Okay. So it's a little more subtle.
Yeah, and I feather that too. And so I was always trained, or what I've seen is it's better to feather your sunbounce and not just cast them. So
otherwise it's, solar concentrator array on your model.
And then I can't keep my eyes open.
Yeah. And you're like, could you stop the tears coming down your eyes? Be a professional. All right. Speaking of light. All right. Wait. Skip the light. What is wrong with the windows and doors on this house?
This is actually at a fairgrounds, and it is a prop of an old Western town, kind of in a child area.
Okay.
So
we were discussing where the location for this would have been.
Yeah. It was kind of cool, and so I go to these home shows, and I'm a photographer there, obviously, and promoting my photography. And to make a long story short, I would have the models come and help me in my booths. So in exchange, I would photograph them while they kind of help me man the booth and say hi to people and say, hey, this is Dave. You like his work, blah, blah, blah. And so the promoters kind of started to get complaints from the other vendors. And they said, oh, this guy's shooting 17-year-old girls. What's he doing? And they basically said, hey, you can't be doing this during our show. So it was really kind of a bummer. I was kind of, but that's what we did. We just kind of went around the fairgrounds and we shot in the horse thing, and we basically went over. It was really, really cool thing.
Very nice. Nice little studio shot here.
Yeah, this one was with a bunch of snakes, and I wasn't really into the snakes, but same model, and
I don't see the snakes. Where are they?
No snake. All the snake shots to me just weren't working. So one of our friends brought a bunch of snakes, and I picked one that didn't have the snake, and so this is the one I picked.
Gotta tell you, that's one of those common themes right up there with the railroad tracks. And don't get me wrong, I've seen snake shots where I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. But for the most part, I'm like, okay, been done, move along.
Caution tape.
Caution tape. There is a picture floating around where somebody tried to get as many cliches as possible in one picture.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's great.
So it's snakes on a train track with
snakes, train track, caution tape, bullwhip, the whole works. It was pretty good.
You got to forward to me, Brian. I want to see that.
If I can find it, we'll drop it in the podcast.
That's really funny.
Actually, we'll probably never find the real owner, so we can't get the rights to it. But so I like this little bikini thing she's got going. It's kind of cool. I wish we could see more of it.
Me too. I really like the top.
If Roxanne could see it better, she would be buying it now on Amazon.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think that would fit me quite right. She's got things where I don't have things, and vice versa.
I'm sure it's adjustable.
I don't know. Some styles just look right on different people.
I see. I'm sure there's somebody willing to try.
Yes.
She is pretty. She's got kind of a strange proportion to her face. Not quite sure what that is.
It's beautiful, whatever it is.
She's very pretty. I'm not, but she is not that sort of generic, look, I'm a California model.
You're
chick.
right.
Brian, I have to admit, I mean, we're all photographers here. That was a software that I used for the first time. That was different. And her face was manipulated by a computer program that says this is what should have happened. So
Really?
I don't mind disclosing that because I was with her right when we were doing it. And I said, which one? And she said, this one. And so I said, are you sure? She's like, yeah. And so it's very subtle. But nonetheless, this program
It's one of those things where you like define certain points and then
you basically and you just put in all the little I can't even think of what it's called. I don't use it anymore.
I've seen ads for it, and I've always thought, wow, it's just cheap.
Perfect Portrait. I think it's Perfect Portrait.
Yeah.
It's like really cheap and anyhow, I did it. I looked at it. I don't use it as much on rare occasions.
I'm all about the experimentation.
Yeah, and so there it was, and she enjoyed it. So I said, great, we'll leave it.
There are way too many people that are like, I use Lightroom and Photoshop, and this is what I create. And you're like, but have you tried this? And they're like, well, that's not Photoshop. I can't use that. And it's like, well, it's another piece of software. Oh, no, I use Photoshop. Okay, fine. Do whatever you like. And another McKinsey here. I like that you didn't totally blow out the background. It's sort of almost vignetted, but it looks like it was done practically instead of in software.
Yeah, I don't think I vignetted this at all. Maybe I did on the top. You can see that, but you know what? I've tried to master this, and I don't know. I haven't done this in a while, but it's I'm on top of a ladder, small ladder, and you just have to keep playing with the lights until all the shadows work. And so she did great, and the hair is really important on this shot. And I think all the girls like it when you get it right.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So in the studio that I'm hopefully building next year, I keep putting the word hopefully, but should be, one of the oddities, it's a 10-foot ceiling in the studio, but I'm going to be building a box that will retract up into the ceiling to take a camera up much higher. So I should be able to get about a 15-foot view down to the ground.
Really
cool.
And it's just for this sort of thing. And it'll be something that you can just zip down, mount a camera to it, put it on tethered, and then zip it up into the ceiling and remotely control it from an iPhone.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Brian.
Yeah, it's one of those crazy ideas where it's just going to take a little extra, but I think in the end, it's for things like this, you're going to be like, I have that thing in the ceiling.
You could use a 50 or an 85 instead of a 24 or 35, whatever.
And that really does matter.
Yeah, it does
And this photo reminds me of my gadget of the week. So pay attention for that later.
Attention for the gadget. Okay, so this picture we picked not because it's beautiful, not because it's a masterpiece of artwork, just because it's cool.
It's such a neat concept.
Great idea. I looked at it, I'm like, I should have tried that.
That's such
really should have tried that.
Such a funny, a funny concept that really it brings out the blue on both sides, and really the model's really funny and got into it. It looks like.
Yeah, she did, and you know what was just funny is that was not Photoshopped. Those are two TVs actually showing a blue screen, and I had a lot of fun trying to quote unquote get the exposure right. So
that's Danielle XO, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
That she has almost alien-like perfect skin.
Yeah, I can't say I photoshopped this at all, actually. Now that I think about it, I don't think I touched this image.
Yeah, I shot her once, and literally, you pull up the picture, and you're like, oh, well, she does have that one blackhead there. At least she's not perfect. You're like, oh, it's a spot of dust on my screen. But no, we just wanted to bring that up because everyone else should feel like they didn't think of it either. And I bought that bikini.
Really?
Yeah. I gave when I saw this girl.
Different size, Brian?
No. That one.
Oh, that exact one.
Yeah, I saw this girl and I was like, I think I have just the right bikini for you, and you'd have to put it on now. And she's like, what? I'm like, hold on. I'm digging through the back of my car, and I'm like, there it is. And she's like, I would never wear that. I don't know if that would look good. Just put it on. And
it works great.
She put it on, and everybody went, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was Beauty Dish, KC Beauty Dish on a Allen Chrome head, and the little alien bee, not alien bee, the vagabond power thing,
Hmm.
which almost got washed away in the ocean, I think, one time. But nonetheless, yeah, that was it. And the sun ray is perfect and works, and a lot of editing on this one, but it was fun, and I love it.
I've heard salt water is really good for equipment. Cleans it
Right.
up really well.
And great for your hair too.
Too
Yeah.
fun. Well, that's it for our portfolio review. Just really beautiful stuff, and we're going to go on to gadgets. I'm going to lead off with this. I am not a small man. I'm let's just say industrial sized, and I find it very hard to find a backpack that I am comfortable carrying. They fit weird. I actually went to the Low Pro booth at one of the conventions and said, "Fine, you got them all here. Something that fits me." And the guy's like, "You're shaped weird. We can't help you." Well, apparently they can. They came up with, about 2 years later, the Slingshot series of bags. And the Slingshots are nice. They only go over one shoulder, kind of like a half messenger bag, half backpack. And they work on us people that are shaped strange. And they're also really, really quick and easy to get off, unlike a regular backpack style camera bag. So I'm going to recommend the Low Pro Slingshot 202, which I believe is their medium size bag. It's not dirt cheap. They are $75 to $95, depending on what size and where you get it. But they are definitely worth checking out if you find a regular backpack a little cumbersome, or if you just want something that you can get off in a big hurry. Really, really nice.
Well, that brings me to mine. As a model, you always want your best attributes shown in the best possible light. That being said, a lot of the clothing that you end up wearing for shoots, if you wear clothing, is rather revealing. When you're trying to do shots of showing your shoulders or your back, or even from the side, that is revealing yet sexy, I would say. This is a great option. It's a silicone bra that it's sticky, and it's an enhancer is what they call it. And basically, you can actually place it in several different ways to make yourself look better on camera. And it's very easy to hide as well. And if a little corner peeks out, then it's also easier to Photoshop because you can see your skin tone through it. And I'm assuming that it's easier to Photoshop in that way.
It is.
Anyway, so it's a really great tool to have. I use them all different ways, and even in swimsuits on occasion, depending on the style, it can make your frontal region look very nice.
So I have shot models with these, and they do take a little extra work sometimes to get them right, but they
true.
are nice because there are no straps running around creasing. You don't have to curse those things. The best way to find them is as a silicone enhancer. We, of course, have a link to the item on Amazon.com. They come in a couple of different sizes, I think.
And the best thing, I think, is that they clip together in the middle.
They clip together in
With
the
a
middle,
clear
which
clip.
it can give cleavage to anything.
Anyone.
Yeah, you stick these things to your garage door and put them together; it'll have cleavage.
It's really very flattering.
And you know what? I'm looking at the Amazon page. There's 86 reviews, and it's over 4 stars. Nothing has that.
That's pretty amazing. It is a really great product.
David, what do you have for us?
Ah, yes, the outdoor necessity. If you're going to shoot anybody outside, you need this, the Hoodman Loop. It goes perfectly with every camera that I've shot with. Two reasons why I use it. One is because you're outside and you have no idea. You can look at your pictogram, but you have no idea what you're looking at outdoors. You just can't see it. You can put your hand over there. So this thing I use all the time when I'm shooting outdoors, almost every hour that I shoot outside. And the second reason why I actually do it, I'm getting to be a little older. I'm 46, and I can't see the images nearly as well as I could 3 years ago. So this has an adjusting focus on it. So if instead of me having to pull out glasses to try to see these images up closer, can just adjust the focus, and it's worth it. One word of advice: don't drop it in the sand. It is extremely hard to clean if you get sand in it.
I'll bet.
I really like this as a model. I've had photographers show me the images through that, and I think it's great. It's much easier to see from our perspective as well.
Very good. The back in the film days, everybody had a loop. A loop was something that it was in. You opened any desk drawer, there'd be a loop sitting there, and the loops kind of just died. I'm surprised the company survived. And then all of a sudden, somebody went, "Hey, no, if we put a hood on that and stuck it on the back of a camera, it'd be really awesome." And they're back, and they're useful. This made me think. I've been following this whole Google Glass project, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's a pair of glasses from Google that has a little tiny monitor up in the upper right corner. And I'm wondering how long it'll be before the Google Glass is the viewfinder for your camera. And so that you can have the camera where you need it to be, and you can just look up in the Google Glass and see the live view. Very interesting idea.
That is interesting. I think that technology right now, especially in that regard, is amazing.
Yeah,
and they have a little camera in it too.
Yeah, it has a camera,
yeah,
and you can talk to your glasses, which is something I've always wanted to do.
And you can actually ask them to Google search things.
Please, God, somebody at Google call an eyewear manufacturer so that thing doesn't look so horrible. But, okay, so we're going to go on to listener mail, and we have a extensive rant from a listener, and I'm just going to trim it down to the elements. It reads, portfolio guys, Android, WTF, question mark, Frederick. People are quite curious why we are basically iTunes and not Android compatible at this point. The problem is Android has been very, very slow to get on the go with enhanced podcasts. And many people have blamed it on being a Apple technology. And apparently it isn't, because there are players that are in development on enhanced podcast playing ability. Most of them can now play the audio, but you don't get the artwork. There is a player, and I'm not going to bring it up because they are not quite finished yet, but there is a player we're trying to release towards that has chapter markers and has the pictures. It's just not there yet. In the meantime, we are working on a way to condense our podcast down to where you'll see the images in a movie. It's not going to be as good because you won't be able to see or you won't be able to click on links, which is both important because we want you to be able to go and see the artwork of our models, photographers, makeup artists, and such in a more extensive way. But it also is, quite honestly, important because your clicks through to Amazon are how we pay for the electricity to make this whole thing go. But, and honestly, we would rather suggest interesting things for you to go see and maybe purchase if it's right for you than to take advertisements, which is the other model that works. And I think you guys would much rather go buy yourself a Hoodman loop that is really cool than listen to me blather on about some hosting company that has sexy women or something. We have our own sexy women. Thank you very much. Anyway, so that's the answer. We're working on it. Very soon, there will be a version of the podcast that you can subscribe to that is in movie format, and you'll be able to see it on absolutely any device, but it just won't be as good.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you, David, for spending the time with us today.
Thank you, guys.